Welcome to Quickshots.
Oh, hey, welcome to Quickshots. James still hasn't had his baby, so we get him back for another week. Lucky us. We'll see. I'm not going to throw the first question to you. I feel like I answered 2 last week, probably. Where should we start? Yeah, Eng. This one's from Eng. Isn't it better to be buying positively geared property than negatively geared property?
Well, I personally think you want positive cash flow. I don't think it matters if they're positively geared or negatively geared. It'll come down to the property and where you're at in your situation. What I would say though is you've got to have positive cash flow, and a lot of people misconstrue positive cash flow with positive and or negative gearing. Gearing is a totally different thing. It incorporates tax deductions and all that sort of thing. You want positive cash flow, so inevitably that means having your tenant and the tax pay for the cost of holding the property where you're not significantly out of pocket. And general rule of thumb is you don't want to be putting more than 10% of your after-tax dollars into the cost of holding your investments. So, and I'd say that's more important. Cash flow really is going to be a drop in the ocean compared to what the growth and value increase in a property portfolio is going to do for your overall wealth. But certainly you want to be positively cash flowed, definitely. I'll go with you here, Deepak. How do you have a positive I thought this fitted in quite well. How do you have a positive cash flow and a tax refund as well?
Well, my friend, the answer to that is non-cash deductions. And that is pretty much your depreciation on your property. So if you, my friend, have an investment property and you do not have a depreciation report, you're doing it all wrong. You've got to get a quantity survey out there ASAP. They'll do you a report and it will show in numbers, dollars and cents, at what rate items in that house are depreciating. You then give that to your accountant and they factor that into your tax deductions for that year. And we call that a non-cash deduction because it's not actually money coming in and going out of your account, but you can claim the depreciation. And a really fun fact that we love talking about because it's true, over 40 years, if your property is brand new, over 40 years, you can claim 2.5% every single year till you have depreciated 100% of that home. So look, if you buy something that's sort of 5 years old, you've got 35 years. So that's why we love new property.
A majority of it in the first 10 as well.
That's exactly right. Last one over to you, Cuzzy. Eliza, can you use your superannuation to buy an investment property?
You can, but you need a self-managed super fund, and it is somewhat restrictive in terms of borrowing money. You can only borrow money to buy. You can't borrow to build. You're limited normally to a 70% loan-to-value ratio. So look, you can do it. You've got to set up what they call a self-managed super fund, which means you've got to put all your money into a fund that you manage yourself. There are some costs associated with that, but it absolutely can be done. You pay a slightly higher interest rate. I still can't for the life of me figure out why when super is such a low-risk sort of way for the banks to lend money, but it is the nature of the environment. You're generally paying about 7.5% today, so roughly 1.5% above the rates that non-super funds pay. But yes, definitely possible. A lot of people do it, and look, it is a good way to buy a property and use your super. Definitely.
And the only thing you can't do is build a brand new house in your super, can you, Cuz?
Nope.
It's got to be an existing dwelling.
And you can't try and do something with your super fund. So a lot of people think, I'll put a bit of my money in, put a bit of the super fund's money in. You can't do that, unfortunately. You've got to do it just with the super fund in its own right.
Not yet anyway. Who knows? That wraps it up for this week, guys. Hey, send us your questions. Our emails are in the show notes. If you didn't know that, you're welcome.
Have a good weekend.
Just say hi. Who cares?
Yeah, hit us up.
Hello. Hi. Hey. Howdy. Thanks for listening to another episode of The Double Shot with your favourite cousins, Alex and James Fitzgerald. If you've got a burning question or something we absolutely need to talk about on the pod, please write to us. Both of our emails are in the show notes. For little real estate tidbits and a little bit of banter, okay, a lot of banter, you can follow us on the gram. Our handle is thedoubleshot.podcast. That, my friends, is thedoubleshot.podcast. Until next time, think of us when you sit back and sip your next double shot.